apart from me, you can do nothing. I always believed that scripture, but I believed it a totally different way when I was poor. It's almost like, and I believed everything I had came from God. I mean, I'm still a grateful kid. But it's almost like I looked at God and said, Lord, the house on the mountain, thank you so much. The bank account, thank you so much. The opportunities for ministry, thank you. The friends, thank you. The family, thank you. But if it's okay with you, I'll just take it from here. And it was March 2000. I was driving down the hill from where I lived, and you had to have a four-wheel drive car to get down it and up it in the winter. I was driving it down, and I heard this voice go off in my head, and it said, "Sell everything." You know, that sounds just like God. I mean, I've been teaching people how to hear that voice for years now and how to get it, and I knew that was his voice, but it made no sense to me. Why would he tell me to sell everything when everything's going up? Because by the middle of summer, I would hit my number, and then I would sell everything. Made no sense to me. Well, that was in March. And if you were unfortunate enough to be in tech stocks in 2000, you know what April brought. That's when the bottom fell out with a merger with AOL and Time, and it continued to drop. And my brokers and advisors were going, "Oh, don't worry, this is just a correction." Well, no, it wasn't a correction. It was a fall. It was a collapse, but I couldn't tell that. So by September, I'd lost half of my net worth and still had a lot of money, but I'd lost half of my net worth. But something else was going on then that dwarfed the whole stock market thing. And this is what took me into my third phase of friendship with God. We had two perfect children. My firstborn son, Stephen Craig Deere, and my thirdborn daughter, Elise Elizabeth Deere. Then we had Scott, our second-born son, in between. And from the day Scott was born, we fought with Scott. I love Scott, but I never knew Scott. He started on marijuana when he was 13. We found it at 16, and at 19, he was in rehab for 7 months. We thought he was clean, and Scott was amazing. Scott could make everybody in the family laugh. He could make everybody in the family rage. He was an emotional genius. He could read a person so well. That's why he could make you laugh, and that's why he could really hurt you when he wanted to. He was this beautiful, blonde-haired charmer. The girls pursued Scott from kindergarten. Always girls pursuing him. When we got older, they pull up in a BMW, find him at a convenience store, a lawyer's daughter, take him off into the sunset with her. He was such a charmer. He was always able to find people to care for us. But we came to that point where I said, "Scott, you have to leave and go into rehab, or you just have to leave. Those are your two options. You can take yourself out, but you're not going to take the four of us out with you." And then he got out of rehab, looked like it was pretty good for a while, and then he started that downward path again. And by the summer of 2000, he was sleeping in a garage in San Jose with a dog. And it was killing this father's heart, because I still had plenty of money to take care of that boy, to get him an apartment, to get him in college. I had everything he needed, and it was killing me that I couldn't do it. Part of his trouble was a dad who was always rescuing him. I didn't know I had permission not to. I didn't know that rescuing him could sometimes be the worst thing for him. And now he's sleeping in a garage with a dog. No one left to charm. And I'm talking to him almost every day on the phone. And I'm saying things like, "Scott, this is the best day of your life. It's just going to get worse if you don't change." "I want to change, Dad." "Well, you have to, Scott." We're having that kind of conversation over and over and over. And then in July, on that mountaintop, I hear this. I hear God speak. He says, "Bring Scott home and treat him like the prodigal son returned home, though he hasn't returned home." And my heart just sang, because I'm sure I knew what God meant. That when I brought him home, treated him like he had really come home, that was going to be the thing that would heal our relationship and save him. So that's exactly what I did. And treat him like the prodigal son, buy him a $30,000 pickup, get him an apartment in Bozeman with some young Christian guys I knew, 100 with their fathers, get him enrolled in Montana State for the spring semester. That's what I did. And we spent 40 days hunting out in the most beautiful spots you can imagine. He loved to hunt, and I took him with me every time I went out, and I went out more because that's what he wanted to do. horseback rides in the snow with rifles going after elk, bow hunting with deer, bow hunting with elk, with camping out and pheasant hunting and all that sort of thing. And we could do more than talk. We could actually communicate during that time. And now I just felt like we were on the way to perfect. We were on the way to perfect. And then Christmas night, we had the whole family together at our house, or actually the night after Christmas. So 11 o'clock, he's going out with his girlfriend. He said, I'll be back later, Dad. I said, okay, see you in the morning. Next morning came. He's supposed to go to Target with his mom to get stuff for his new apartment. And the other two kids are up. We're all up. I'm sitting by the fireplace and writing my next book on my notebook computer and just happy as I can be. It's 8:30. He hadn't come down from his room. And I go up to wake him up. And I open the door. And he is sitting at the foot of his bed on the floor, legs extended, fully clothed. And my first thought is, Scott passed out. He just drank too much last night. Then I saw the blood, and I thought he fell and hurt himself. And then I saw more. And I just said, Scott. And I knelt down beside him. And my .44 Magnum was in his left hand. He's right-handed, but it was in his left hand. And he had shot himself. And there's a broken beer bottle in the other hand. I got my son, Stephen, said, go get Elise. And I got Lisa, woke her up. I said, Scott shot himself. He's dead, honey. And I don't think you should go into that room. And she said, if you don't let me go into that room, I will never forgive you. Okay. Got my robe. I put it on her. And we gathered around his body. And I held his head in my hands. Lisa put her hand on his right shoulder. Stephen sat in front of him and put his hand on Scott's knee. And Elise stood at the door to Scott's bedroom. And she was praying, but she was holding her eyes up. She was trying to limit the horror that wanted to come into her mind. And we prayed. And I said, we're just going to pray for God to give Scott back until the police come and make us leave. And I don't know how long it was, maybe 20 or 30 minutes. But we didn't get him back. The police came and asked us to leave the room. And that was the beginning of my third phase of friendship with God. He took away a lot of things. He took away a lot of things. And you say, he took away a lot of things? Yeah, I say that on purpose. I don't believe that he was the secondary cause of my son's death, but God is the ultimate cause of everything. When the Sabaeans came and attacked Job's property, and then the Chaldeans came, and then Satan threw the wind against the house and killed his kids, Job says, the Lord has given and the Lord has taken away. And he said the most important thing, blessed be the name of the Lord. It's like Job said, in spite of all the evidence to the contrary, Father, I'm going to believe that you're good, and what you'll do is always good. He didn't say the Sabaeans or Chaldeans took away. So in this phase of friendship, we started it in pain, and we started it in confusion. Ended up losing everything. Ended up losing all the money in the stock market. Someone said, oh, what a horrible time to lose your money. Nah, it's the best time in the world. Never lost a night of sleep over that loss of that money. And you can always get money back. I knew what was valuable after this day. Oh, and by the way, don't let anybody tell you marijuana is not addictive. And don't let your kids believe that. My son smoked non-addictive marijuana for 10 years until he killed himself. And the truth about marijuana is this. Everyone who does heroin starts with marijuana. And the other truth about marijuana is this. Everyone who does marijuana ends up doing other things. That's the truth about marijuana. I know that story real well now. About a month after we lost Scott, someone sent me an email reminding me that suicides don't go to heaven. True. The heart of the argument went like this. If you die with unconfessed sin, you can't go to heaven. If you commit suicide, then you die with unconfessed sin. I think that was the heart of the argument, though it was difficult to find any heart in the arguer. Didn't make me the least bit threatened. Didn't even reply to the man, because since I was 17 years old, I know how people get into heaven. They don't get into heaven because they're good. They don't get into heaven because they do something good with their last breath. They don't go to hell because they do something bad with their last breath. We go to heaven for one reason. We trust Jesus to forgive us and give us new life. He comes into our heart and he never leaves again. And all you have to do is look at the thief on the cross. Spent his whole life causing others pain, and in the last few moments of his life, he turns to Jesus and he says, remember me when you come into your kingdom. He looks at this battered, bloody figure and he says, you have a kingdom, you're coming into it, you have the power to remember people in that kingdom, please remember me. And Jesus says, truly I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise. Jesus will take any kind of heart, an adulterous heart, an addicted heart, a murderous heart, a perverted heart, a corrupt heart with only a beat left in it if someone offers it to him. And he'll never leave a heart once he's come into it. You have to believe that if you want a friendship with him. If you're struggling to keep your friendship with Jesus, it's not going to work. If I'm struggling to be a member of my family, it's not going to work. I know what it means to be accepted in the beloved.